Ever find yourself reaching for your phone without a second thought, as if your hand has a mind of its own? No pending messages, no urgent emails, no pressing need to Google anything. But in a brief moment of empty space, during a lull in conversation at dinner, or while standing in line at the grocery store, your thumb hovers over the screen, ready to unlock a world that can fill the silence. The other day, I did just that. Standing in my kitchen, kettle humming softly, my hand reached for the phone resting on the counter. But then I paused, glanced at the small black rectangle, and a thought struck me. Why is silence so unsettling? Why does waiting a mere 2 minutes for boiling water feel intolerable? I can't even recall what I used to do in the mornings before smartphones existed. I imagine it was something like pouring a steaming cup of coffee and sitting in my favorite chair, savoring the aroma and warmth. Maybe I gazed out the window, lost in thought, preparing for the day ahead or recalling dreams from the night before. I'm guessing it was a tranquil time, free from notifications and distractions. But I honestly couldn't tell you. It feels so long ago. My next thoughts were about two videos I'd seen recently that seemed unrelated, but I think they were pointing to a common insight. The first was a clip of a woman passionately explaining why real change, real community, doesn't happen in online groups. She said it happens at the party. Now, she didn't just mean a loud celebration with music. By the party, she meant any time we gather together in a physical space. It could be a neighborhood potluck, a volunteer day at the local park, or just a few friends crowded around a kitchen table. She said we have to dance together, sweat together, let loose and have fun together if we expect to be there for each other to do the real work. She pointed out that if you want to organize people to fix the world, you first have to make them want to be in the same room. You have to build the kind of friendships where you can't wait to see each other again, where you know how your friend takes their coffee, where you've shared inside jokes that still make you both laugh years later. And listening to her, I thought about how we used to make plans when I was growing up in the 80s. You'd call your friend on the phone attached to the wall, and you'd have to get everything right in that one conversation. What time, what place, who else was coming? Because you couldn't just text later to ask, "Where are you?" If you missed the details, you missed your friends. So you learned to communicate clearly. You learned that connection took effort, took intention. And maybe because of that, when you finally met up at the park or the beach, it felt like something you'd earned. She said the real work of connecting happens when we share a moment, a song, a laugh, a meal. It happens in the messy, unpredictable, and wonderful reality of being human together. Then, just a day or two later, I listened to a professor, a neuroscientist, talk about the immense importance of being bored. He said we need to embrace the empty spaces in our day, not run from them. Like eating a meal alone in a cafe. Instead of grabbing our phones the second we sit down, we should just sit there, in the discomfort of the silence. We should just look out the window or watch the other people or simply notice the taste of our food. Because in that boredom, our brains wake up in a different way. That's where creativity lives. It's where we solve problems we've been stuck on for weeks because our mind is finally free to wander and make new connections. Is where we can finally hear our own thoughts, the quiet ones that usually get drowned out by all the noise. It's in those moments of doing nothing that we finally get to check in with ourselves. We can ask, how am I really feeling about life right now? What do I actually want? What matters to me? And I realize boredom was much more familiar before smartphones were a thing. When I was a kid, there were only a handful of TV channels, and your parents controlled what was on anyway. Long summer afternoons stretched out with nothing to do. You'd already ridden your bike around the block. Your friends weren't home. And you just had to sit there with yourself. It was uncomfortable sometimes, sure. But that's also where I learned to daydream, to make up stories, to figure out who I was. We didn't have infinite worlds to escape into. We just had the one we were in. At first, these ideas sound like they're pulling us in two different directions. One says, go out, be loud, connect with everyone. The other says, stay in, be quiet, connect with yourself, go to the party, or sit with the boredom. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized they are both a reaction to the same thing. They are both pushing back against that life we live on our phones. And I'll be honest with you, I struggle with this balance myself. I'm someone who's naturally more comfortable in quiet spaces. Right now, I'm working on a project in my home. It's this colored plastic film that you can put on windows to make them look like stained glass. I've been creating these window designs, and honestly, it took me a long time to commit to starting because I knew what it would require. Time spent measuring carefully, cutting precisely, and smoothing out bubbles. It takes a little bit of mental effort and a little bit of physical effort. Not hard exactly, but focused. And I didn't know what the end result would be. I didn't know if it would turn out beautiful or disappointing. Watching a short-form video that may or may not turn out well is not a big deal. If it sucks, I'll just swipe on. Committing to buying supplies and starting a project that could end up being a complete waste of time is a whole other experience. As it turns out, the results are really gorgeous. The light comes through these panels in the most incredible way, throwing colored patterns across my walls. But even realizing that, I couldn't sit still and work on it for hours. I have to do it in little chunks, in between other things. I'll measure and cut for 20 minutes, then I'll need to make a snack or do something else entirely. And I'll come back to it. That hits me hard, because I remember a version of myself who could spend an entire Saturday afternoon absorbed in a single project. I mean, we didn't really have a choice. We either found something to do or we did nothing. But I could paint for hours, or read a whole book in one sitting, or work in the garden until the sun went down. The quiet didn't bother me. It fed me. But somewhere along the way, that changed. It's like our phones offer us a little bit of connection and a little bit of distraction, but they don't truly give us either of the things we really need. They don't give us the party, and they don't give us the quiet. We can scroll through photos of a friend's birthday party. We can see the smiling faces and the cake and the decorations. We can tap a heart on the picture or leave a comment that says, "Looks so fun." We might feel a tiny spark of connection, a little warmth, but it's a flicker, not a fire. It's not the same as being there, feeling the bass of the music in your chest, tasting the frosting on the cake, and laughing with your friend until your stomach hurts. It's not the same as the shared glance across the room that says, "Can you believe what just happened?" That feeling of true belonging doesn't come through a screen. It comes from shared experience. It comes from the awkward hug where you're not sure how long to hold on, or singing the wrong lyrics to a song together and realizing you've both been getting them wrong for years. It comes from seeing someone's face when they're truly happy or truly sad and being right there with them. We use our phones to avoid being bored, but that also gets in the way of the deep, creative thinking that comes from true quiet. Scrolling isn't solitude. It's just another kind of noise, a different kind of busy. It occupies our minds without actually engaging them. It keeps us from the wandering thoughts that lead to new ideas. It prevents us from feeling a feeling all the way through, whether it's sadness or joy or just simple peace. We're not bored, but we're not truly resting or reflecting either. We're just occupied. When I'm standing at my window with that colored film in my hands, trying to get it just right, there's this moment when everything in me wants to stop. The quiet feels heavy. My brain is restless, ready to wander off towards something easier, something with more stimulation. And that's when I have to make a choice. I could reach for my phone. I could give in to that pull. But instead, I tried to make a purposeful decision to double down, to push through and finish just one more square, one more section before I let myself wander off and get distracted. Because I know that if I want to maintain my creative strength, if I want to keep my ability to work on complex things and think critically, I need to practice sitting with that uncomfortable silence. I need to stay focused on the thing that's making me want to break away from the quiet. I wish it were easier, but connecting with people in real life is hard for me too, in a completely different way. Getting there, making the plan, leaving the house, that initial step feels almost impossible sometimes. I could so easily just stay home on my couch with my phone and never see anyone. That semi-quiet, semi-connected online space feels safer, easier. But then, once I'm actually there with people I love, it's wonderful. Seeing their smiling faces, hugs, laughing together, eating together. It's not that being with people is hard once I'm there. It's getting myself there in the first place that takes effort. The phone makes it so easy to avoid both things. It lets me avoid the uncomfortable quiet of focused work, and it lets me avoid the initial discomfort of leaving the house to see people. It offers just enough connection and just enough distraction that I can be sucked into it indefinitely, never fully alone, and never fully connected. It's like our online life puts us in a permanent gray space. It's not the loud, vibrant color of a party, and it's not the deep quiet of our own minds. It's a comfortable, easy, in-between place to be, but nothing really grows there. It's like eating snacks all day long. You're never really hungry, but you're never truly satisfied by a nourishing meal either. You just feel full of nothing. In this gray space, we aren't building deep, resilient friendships that make us feel like we truly belong. We're rarely having the kinds of conversations that change how we see the world, or the kinds of shared experiences that become the stories we tell for years. And we aren't giving our minds the space they need to dream and wonder and understand who we are. We aren't solving the problems that have been nagging at us, or processing the grief we've been carrying, or imagining the future we want to build. We're just filling time. We're passing the minutes and hours without really living them. And I know, because I grew up before all this technology existed, that it's healthier for me to make time for both. For those in-person experiences with people I love, and for those quiet experiences, where I'm working with my hands, thinking creatively, learning something new. Whether it's cutting that window film, or learning to play a keyboard, or holding a paintbrush, or cutting wood with a saw. These physical interactions with the world, these moments that require sustained focus and problem solving, they're essential. Before the internet was everywhere, I had 30 years of practice being bored and finding projects to fill my time. 30 years of being forced, in a way, to develop those skills because there simply wasn't an infinite stream of content available at every moment. 30 years of practicing the social discomfort of making plans and showing up, because that was the only way to connect with people. I think about the people who've grown up on these devices now. They've never known what it's like to be stuck in the backseat of a car with nothing but the passing scenery and their own thoughts. They've never experienced summer afternoon boredom that force you to build something, or make up a game, or just lay in the grass and watch the clouds. They've never had to memorize a phone number, or write down directions, or figure out how to entertain themselves for hours with nothing but a pile of cardboard boxes and some markers. And I wonder what it means to grow up without ever learning that boredom eventually transforms into something else. Curiosity, creativity, rest. It's heartbreaking, honestly, not just for them, but for all of us watching this unfold. Because those of us who existed before this technology can see what's being lost, even as others might not know it was ever there to begin with. When I think about the people I know who seem the most happy and at peace, they might attend community events like music festivals or enjoy spending time with friends and family, but they can also relax at the park without pulling out their phone. They can take a long drive without needing a podcast or music the whole way. They know how to be alone without being lonely. And I want that. I want to be someone who can sit with myself without needing constant input. I want to finish those window panels without checking my phone every 20 minutes. Because I grew up before technology like this existed. I remember what it feels like to be fully absorbed in something I was creating. I remember the satisfaction of stepping back and seeing something beautiful that didn't exist before, that came from my own hands and imagination. Maybe that's what people need. Permission to stop treating every moment like it should be filled or documented or optimized. Maybe the question isn't whether we need to be with people or be by ourselves. It seems so clear that we need both, desperately. We need the party, and we need the boredom. We need to be able to show up for each other in real life with all our imperfections and awkwardness. And we need to be able to show up for ourselves in the quiet with all our wandering thoughts and unanswered questions. Perhaps the real challenge is recognizing when our screens are keeping us from both. It's about noticing that automatic reach for the phone and asking ourselves, am I trying to avoid something? Am I avoiding being with other people, or am I avoiding the necessary silence of being with myself? For me, the answer is both. And I'm one of the lucky ones. I at least know what I'm missing because I remember a time before. I'm practicing something simple but hard, choosing to finish one more square on my window before I walk away, choosing to make the plan and leave the house even when everything in me wants to stay on the couch. Small choices, repeated over and over, to rebuild a capacity that used to come more naturally. But for those who never had the chance to build that capacity in the first place, I don't know what the answer is. I just know it matters. And maybe that's why we're here, talking about it. Because recognizing what we're losing is the first step toward choosing something different. The choice isn't about good tech versus bad tech. It's about choosing to put the phone down, so we can either go find the music or just listen to the silence. It's about choosing a life of vibrant color and deep quiet, instead of settling for the comfortable gray. It's about letting the kettle boil and, just for a minute, doing nothing at all. Thanks for listening. I'm Luma from This Online Life.